Hello everyone, and welcome to Joe and Zach's Survival. In this video, we're going to go through the process of making your own fruit pectin. A lot of you are making jams and jellies right now, and you go to the store and you buy your pectin, but what would happen if you didn't have any pectin? And I realize that you can boil that jelly, all your stuff down to a consistency where it's not needed, but that burns a lot of resources, takes a lot of heat to get it down that far, and you have to watch it so close. So I'm going to take you through this video. We're going to make our own apple pectin, and we'll go through the different fruits that you can use to make it as well. Okay, well when you're making your own apple pectin, you want to pick apples that are not quite ripe. Here in Minnesota, we've got about 3 more weeks until they're really perfect for picking, and normally it would be a little bit longer than that, but with this warm year, everything's a little bit early. And as you can see, this is my green apple tree. And it's just loaded with apples. It's never had this many before. But what I'm going to be, I've got a few apple trees, and what I'm interested in is picking up the ones that are on the ground that are not ripe yet. I can use those. Normally they would just be thrown away or the deer would get them. So I'm not using up any of my apple resources. This one's my Honey Crisp apple tree, and I mean, look at how many apples are on it now, and they're just starting to turn red right now. And like I said, they'll be pretty much all red in about 3 more weeks. So let's pick some of these up and we'll get on with the process. Now when we do this, we want to make sure just that the apples don't have any bugs or anything in them like that. Otherwise, pretty much anything goes. Okay everyone, well I got 1 bucket of apples here, so we're going to bring these inside and I'll wash them up, and then we're going to go and pick some other apples, and I want to show those to you also. Another apple tree that's really high in pectin is the crab apple tree. I've got several of them here on the property, and these, you know, they're tiny apples and people use them for jam and stuff like that, but to eat them, just to regular eat them, they're way too bitter. But these are high in pectin, so if you have any of these around, grab these, they'll be better than the other apples. Okay, now that I have all my apples, I'm just going to go through and wash these. I don't spray my apples with anything, so it really wouldn't be that important, because we're going to boil these for about an hour after this. But I want to get this dirt and stuff off, so let me get these washed up and then we'll get them thrown in the pot. Okay, now that we have all the apples washed up and everything like that, the stem's pretty much taken off. Because I've got little crab apples and I've got the bigger green and red apples, I want them kind of to boil at the same time. So I'm going to take and cut these in half, and then I'll put these in whole. And what we're trying to do here is we're going to boil them for 45 minutes to an hour, maybe a little more. They're going to get kind of brown and mushy. We want them mushy so when you pick them up, they would leak the juice that was inside of them. Alright, now we have our pot of apples here. What we're going to do is we're going to bring this up to a boil. We do not want it to be a rolling boil. We just want to have a gentle, kind of a simmering boil to get these apples to reduce kind of to mush. Now that should take 45 minutes to an hour or whatever, and we're definitely going to cover this up like this. And for those of you that don't have apples around where you are, maybe you live down south and there's tons of orange trees and grapefruit trees, there's a higher amount of pectin in the orange peel and a grapefruit peel than you'll get out of an apple. But you want to eat the orange. You don't want to, take the orange out, eat it, do whatever you're going to do with the grapefruit. You don't want the orange part of the skin itself, just the white pulpy part. It's full of pectin, so you can collect that all year and do the same exact thing. Put it in here, boil it for a while so it gets mushy. It wouldn't be as long because you're not using such a big piece of fruit, and then you'll just follow with the same steps that we're going to do here coming up. We'll come back and check this in about an hour and see how it looks. Okay everyone, well the apples are reduced and down real nice and mushy. Just about time to throw them into the colander. For the next part of this, I just have a pan here and I put a colander in there. We're going to end up getting the apples in here after I put a piece of cloth in there, and then we're going to let it drain. But the first thing I'm going to do is sterilize this, and just give me a sec here and I'll show you how I do that. Look who woke up. Okay, for my piece of cloth, I'm just using a old piece of t-shirt, like so. But the first thing I want to do is I took and boiled a pot of water here, and I'm going to dump this in there. It's going to sterilize the t-shirt as well as the colander and the bowl beneath it. Okay, so there's our apple mush, and we're just going to let that sit and drip for a long time. You can let it sit overnight if you want to, whatever, but I'm just going to let it sit here for, I don't know, till late tonight, and we'll see what it looks like. Alright everyone, well it's late afternoon now, and the apples have stopped dripping. So I think that this is going to be done. One thing, you don't want to push down and try to crush the apples to get the stuff out, or you'll end up with real cloudy pectin. It wouldn't hurt anything, it just wouldn't look as good. But now what we need to do, we're going to dump this, see what we ended up with here. I'm going to bring you guys a little bit closer. Okay, that's a little bit better. What we end up with is kind of like a thick water. And now what we're going to do is we're going to throw this on the stove, we're going to bring it to a boil, we're going to let it simmer for a while to get rid of, there was water that got into this. We want to get some of that water out to thicken it up a little bit. Okay everyone, well the pectin is done. That one, what was it, about a bucket and a quarter, an ice cream bucket of apples, we got 1 full pint of pectin. Now there's a test that you do to see if it's ready, and I'm going to show you that test right now using rubbing alcohol and some of your pectin. Okay, for this test what we're going to do is we're going to take and pour just some regular rubbing alcohol in a bowl. And when I took this 1 tablespoon of pectin and I just put it in the freezer and to get it down, cooled down so it wasn't warm anymore, and just dump it into the alcohol. And we're going to let that sit for about a minute. And now with this pectin, you can freeze it, you can put it in the refrigerator like this for up to 2 weeks, but you can freeze it, or you can just throw it in your water bath canner and do it for 10 minutes, and it's just canned and ready to go. The nice thing with this is when you buy the store-bought pectin, you're kind of forced to use the amount of sugar that they say to use on there. With this, you can play around with it. It's more concentrated, so you don't need to use quite as much sugar, which is nice if you're trying to have a jam that's not quite so sugary. But anyway, it's a pretty neat deal. I barely had to reduce this down at all, so always do this test to check it, because if you were to use ripe apples, you might have to reduce it down farther. But I was lucky enough, those crab apples and my apples must not be, they must still be in the pre-ripe condition enough to have a lot of pectin in them. So I was really lucky. The reason I know that is I already did this test. But anyway, I think this is really neat and a great way to make your own pectin. I know it hasn't been quite a minute yet, but when you put this in there, what you want to do is when you put your fork in there, it should stick to the fork. Kind of run through slow. If it just runs right out, you have to reduce it farther. There's not enough pectin in your mixture. So if I take this and go through here, you see how it gels like that? That means it's ready to go. Well, I completely enjoyed doing this video, and I appreciate you guys watching it. I've been looking forward to it, waiting for the apples to get to the right spot, and then it finally happened. So anyway, thanks for watching the video, and thanks a lot for watching the Joe and Zach Survival Channel.